Hello, my name is James Lawrence and I'm a tutor for the Robinson Writing Center, and I've been noticing a lot of students are having trouble with their conclusion paragraphs. I used to as well, but it's a lot easier than many people think. First, we have to ask what the point of a conclusion paragraph is. Well, it's meant to summarize everything in the essay and talk about the effects of the thesis. What do I mean by the effects of the thesis? I mean the implications it has in the real world. Essentially a theme based on the thesis. In other words, it should remind the reader of what they just read and bring it into the real world. But what are the main elements of a conclusion paragraph? Well, conclusion paragraphs should restate the thesis, as I mentioned, but before they do that, they should use a transition. We'll get to those a little later on. Then you'd want to restate the main points as well, usually with the thesis, and then you state the theme, the real-world implications of the thesis, and your argument within the essay. Just so you know, we're going to be using throughout this tutorial an example from an essay I wrote on Frankenstein about whether or not he's human. The thesis was, the monster, despite the treatment it receives, is human based on its speech, upright stance, and conscience. On to transitions. When starting a conclusion paragraph, you should use some sort of transition to naturally and organically begin it. Some examples of these might include, based on the evidence, in summary, in conclusion, and to summarize. You would usually place them at the top of the paragraph, right after your last body paragraph, and right before your thesis. So it would be based on the evidence, thesis, yada 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 yada. Next up is the thesis, in fact. Remember, in the example we're using for this screencast, the thesis is that the monster is human, and the main points are speech, its speech, upright stance, and conscience. This is probably the easiest part. You simply restate the thesis, the monster, despite the treatment it receives, is human. You want to make it very clear and on the nose. Just say it. Just like the thesis, you restate the main points. You can do that in one sentence or two. It's up to you. You can do it in more. And then you might want to explain the each main point just a little to remind the reader what it is and why it matters, why it proves your thesis, but don't go too in depth. Remember, that's all for your body paragraphs. You sort of just want to restate things, and if it's unclear, then you can add on to that just a little, but don't go in too depth in your conclusion paragraph. Now on to the excuse me, real world / theme. So in this example, it could be something along the lines of humanity is based on behavior rather than origin or appearance. If you remember the main points, they included, the speech, so something he does, that would go under behavior, and the conscience, so his ability to reason and his ability to decide what is right and what wrong. Essentially, that proves that humanity is based on behavior, because it's how he acts, what he does, and he might not be considered human in a technical scientific definition, but in the sense of humanity, humanity would be based on behavior rather than origin or appearance. Now, I have two examples for you to decide from. A is, in summary, the monster is human as evidenced by its speech, upright stance, and conscience. Mary Shelley uses these elements to convey the theme that humanity is based on behavior rather than origin or appearance. B, the monster is mistreated and Dr. Frankenstein is at fault for the death of his loved ones. This is based off evidence. Based on the example we've used throughout this video, which do you believe would be correct? I'll give you a second to think it over. Hopefully you decided A was correct. It has the transition in summary, It has the thesis, the monster is human, has the main points, speech, upright stance, and conscience. And then it has a theme, humanity is based on behavior rather than origin or appearance. In B, it has none of those. It goes off on a tangent about mistreatment and Dr. Frankenstein's role in the story, and then all it says is this is based on off evidence. It doesn't give any of the evidence, or even just like the main idea of the evidence. Now, quick recap. A conclusion should include transitions. It should restate the thesis and its main points, and then you really have to bring it home with the theme or real-world implications of the theme or of the thesis. Thank you. I'm James Lawrence again. Have a great day, and good luck with any conclusion paragraphs you do in the future.